It is time. We are here to deliver you a treat for all the tricks out there in the form of gaming is in session. The podcast. We're here to give you just the tip on a particular game this week. Adam, my homie, how you doing today?
Listen, I'm good, dude. This E.V.O, A Search for Eden, is a game I've been wanting to play for years. And we finally have the right media, the right podcast, the right content creation to cover it. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Alex, before we begin, I got a question for you. Okay. So if you had to describe Muhammad Ali, a Australopithecine, and Charles Darwin, how would you do that?
The Evo goat, something like that?
No, I would describe it as a champ, a chimp, and a chump. Boom roasted. Screw you, Charles Darwin. How do you like that?
Why? Why is Charles Darwin a chump?
Because he sucks. Alex, I liked I don't want to quite get into it. Let's cover the Gamer Juice fan shout outs, and then I just want to hit what the fans really want to know about the
Oh
podcast.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But let's do the Gamer Juice, right?
Gamer juice, yeah.
I have been waiting for us to record this. It's still cold, so I'm okay. I went to Cactus Bubble Tea, and I'm actually in Las Vegas. You'll guys notice I'm not at home. Apologize for the sketch, everything. I'm in Vegas, baby. I actually have friends and a life. You only see Alex outside his house when he's with me because he has no one else to live with. But anyhow, this is what did I get? It's strawberry peach fruit tea with strawberry popping bubbles. Sounds really good, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love boba bubbles. I tried to make my own once and it failed miserably.
Ooh, this is good. It's sweet. It's good. Way
Yeah.
better than any of that mocktail crap that I always try when we're together.
Just when Adam's throwing shade my way, I just want to let everybody know. Just paint the picture in your mind. You have Adam, a single dude, drinking this girly drink, wearing that tight Smarties t-shirt, getting flown out to Las Vegas on quote unquote business. What do you think's got him out there in Vegas? Adam's talking about his friends, people willing to
Who
pay
said I
cash,
was on business?
people willing to pay cash to fly him out there to Vegas. You know exactly what's going on. Check your back pages. You might get some back shots of Adam in there if you look closely. Adam, my gamer juice, I went to Target. I don't get flown to Vegas by some people to entertain them. I got a drink called Juvie, and it is
That
watermelon lime flavored.
that looks like a woman's drink.
Yep, 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 yep. Five
So
calories.
what is it though?
5 calories, zero sugar, 127 and a half milligrams of caffeine. It's an energy drink. It's an energy drink from you walk into Target, you look to the left, it's kids' drinks and energy drinks. And today it's an energy drink and it's going down the hatch. Watermelon lime sounded like an interesting combination. Probably
It
going to hate
doesn't
it.
sound bad actually. It sounds pretty good.
Tastes better than a monster. You know what? The,
Oh,
the taste is a bit subdued, which I like. As close as you can get to water without being water is usually my jam.
then why not just drink LaCroix?
Although I like LaCroix, but there's no caffeine in it. Although my issue with this is sometimes you get these drinks that have zero sugar. They use sucralose or something. And it's like the sweetness just kind of coats your tongue rather than just like, I don't know. So like I drink it, it tastes good at first. Then the aftertaste is just like, this is
Oh.
giving me that for the audio files out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, Alex, let's hop into the fan shout outs because you know that we love them. One thing no one ever talks about the gamer juices. I don't know if people like that or not. Mind you, although, I love you, I don't care if you like it. We're still doing it. But
Yeah.
no one ever comments. I don't know what
Well,
it is.
it's like if you really like Star Wars, you don't spend that much time talking about lightsabers, but like you like lightsabers. It's that kind of thing. Like if
Mm.
the gamer juice wasn't there, it would be missed. The gamer juice has to be there.
One of these times we should not include it and see if anyone notices.
We'd get zero clicks. You know what, Adam? We have all these shows. What are we doing? What's the one linchpin for all the shows that we've had? There's been a gamer juice. It should just be the gamer juice podcast. Although then we'd probably get demonetized because I think there actually is something called like game juice or something like
Of,
that.
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Game Jizz.
Game Jizz podcast.
That doesn't exist. And then we'll say It's not explicit. We just can't say the word juice.
Dollar signs for the Z's.
Game gist. Dang, we always come up with our best ideas after we've already started a podcast, you know?
Welcome to our third channel, Game Gist Podcast. We talk about video games we played.
I really like game gist, actually. Okay, I don't know. I like it. I don't know if God Win 11 would, but he likes my commitment to the Halloween theme. Last episode, the review matches the Silent Hill energy perfectly. You are right. That's why I did it. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for the comment. That's what we're talking about. Unfortunately,
Did
my background, I have nothing to do with E.V.O, A Search for Eden this week.
did you pick the red light in last episode because the red save lights in Silent Hill? Is that why you picked it, or was it just ominous?
No, no, I picked the red because of the prison. Remember,
Oh, okay.
like
Yeah,
that
prison,
red
yeah.
was so scary, and I was like, I gotta do that. So
Yeah. I
I
mean
didn't even
it
think about the red save. I care less about that.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I will say after digesting the game a bit, has your opinion changed at all on it?
No, no.
Yeah, I think I watched a couple reviews and stuff. People mostly resonate with the same things that we were saying about it. I just thought it was interesting that like we were first to it, baby. We had the hot takes early on, and everybody else was following suit later.
That's right.
Um, yeah. Up next in the comment section, WP. When this epi opened, I must admit I was a little scared seeing Adam in the red room. I was afraid I was going to witness another Buffalo Bill presentation like in Silence of T.T. Lambs. Truly frightening thought. Do you know what they're referencing there, Adam?
Dude, I was Buffalo Bill in my fourth grade play. I had to wear a diaper and I ran right. Everyone got a big hoot. They laughed. They thought it was really funny.
Do you know who Buffalo Bill is in Silence of the Lambs?
No.
It's like a serial killer who tucks his penis between his legs and pretends he's a woman. That's what they're thinking you were going to do on the show. That's what WP's thinking you were going
What?
to do. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what the heck, WB? It's bullcrap.
yeah.
What scared you was the Pikachu mask because that truly is terror. Actually, the whole thing was actually pretty unsettling, but I don't know why he thought I would tuck my wee wee behind my legs.
Just made sense for the way you act.
I hate you. Corporate Zombie, how do we know what game is next? What if we want to play along? We would love it if you played along. I think last episode we did mention we were playing E.V.O. A Search for Eden. We every episode will say after playing 20% of it whether we're going to continue to play it. And if we finish the game or we decide not to play it, probably in the closing remarks, we will mention what game we're moving on to. Alex and I don't talk beforehand. So we don't know if the other one liked the game, if they're going to vote yes or no. We like to keep it spontaneous. So we don't know. We like, for example, we know, actually, we don't know what game after E.V.O. we're going to do we?
Let me pull up the list. Yeah, we had a list of games
Yeah,
we
we have
were
a whole
thinking about.
running list. But if people want to play games, a specific game, let us know. We'll play it with you. That's how dedicated we are. Hopefully, it doesn't suck.
And we need you to tell us what games because when we pick a game, it's the Plucky Squire and nobody gives a crap, which I thought was a good choice because that game was getting buzz.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
just ended up not
but
being on.
look,
Oh, A Link Between Worlds was next on the list.
that was one. We have so many games, though, right?
And new games coming out all the time.
Yeah.
We got the PS5 Pro coming out. I think like I would like to play a game. Oh, Adam, did you see? This is our next game. Did you see Stellar Blade got an update that I'm not joking, literally had a booby physics update. And they like did demonstrations of how the boob physics were
Dude,
enhanced and
the
stuff.
issue is I've already played the trial, and I don't want to say I hated it, but I didn't like it. Like
You played the
it
demo.
was neutral. I didn't like it.
You played the demo, but it's on the PlayStation Plus. It has the 2 hour introductory free trial you can do,
Dude,
and we could
I
do that.
swear that's what I did.
No, no, no. I know what you did because I did it at the same time you did because that was before the game came out. Now that the game is out, you can get that PlayStation Plus, like play the game straight up for 2 hours and then buy it if you want to.
But I'm already saying if I didn't like the demo, I'm not gonna like the game.
No, with the new boob physics, you'll probably like it.
Gosh, let's move. Okay, don't read all of Tom Telfer's. I think the big thing with Tom Telfer, he gave us some suggestions and encouragement. Thank you, Tom. You rock. I'm starting to think this person is one of our parents because I've never been
Yeah.
supported this much like this man supports us. Listening, hope you continue to enjoy it. We like the new format, the new podcast too. We're still going to come out with PSVR 2 stuff, don't worry. But we're just going to mix and match. We're having fun now, so that's why you're seeing a little bit more of this specific content. And he likes the thumbnails. I really think it's funny when with a new game I have like the main character and it just says "Get judged." I don't know why. Every time I laugh, and that's how I'm gonna roll until Alex starts contributing in some way. That's what our thumbnails are gonna be.
I always thought we should use my backgrounds as the pregnant characters as the thumbnail, but Adam doesn't like that.
That last time, the last episode, I used Eddie as the thumbnail,
Oh, that was the best. Yeah, I love
and
that.
everyone was like, "Why'd you put Alex up there?" And I was like, "Oh no, that's Eddie. That's Eddie."
You got to watch the show to know that it's actually Eddie. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, Alex. This game we've already mentioned. It's Evo: A Search for Eden, Super Nintendo game. All right.
I got a question, Adam, right out of the gate. The title is actually E.V.O. A Search for Eden. What does the E.V.O stand for?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I can't find out. Why did they name it that?
Because it's short for evolution, maybe.
But no, E.V.O. is like electronic video organism or something like that.
I don't know. The game doesn't say.
Doesn't say. Okay, we continue, Adam. I'm sorry. I wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah, I unfortunately I don't have a good answer for you, but this is a game, folks, that I've been wanting to play for a long time. It was made technically the developer was Almanac Aniac. I don't know how do you
All
say
maniac, like almanac, but maniac, all maniac.
Almaniac, stupid name, but the publisher was Enix, the OGs, right? Like
Yeah.
almost every Enix game I've ever played is absolutely fantastic. Came out in 1993, so fairly early into the life cycle of the Super Nintendo, which is pretty wild to me because I've never heard this game until pretty soon. I'm going to give a little bit of a background and how I even heard about this, but never heard of it. And it's a really expensive, rare game if you get an actual copy of it. But it came out when games like Star Fox and Super Mario All Stars, Link's Awakening, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, all of those came out the same year. So I guess it just simply got overshadowed, right? Had you
When
heard of this game before we played it?
I think I had seen a screenshot or an advertisement for it in EGM in like the magazine, but back then, video game advertisements like they wouldn't even show like what the gameplay looks like. It would just be some random picture that would be like a joke or something like that, and then like the name of the title. Like I'm looking at the box art for the game. I remember seeing this on the back of an EGM and in several pages of an EGM. It's a pretty iconic box art with like the dinosaurs wrapped around the letters. Um, but I never played it or anything. 1993. I'm trying to think. When did the PlayStation come out? PlayStation 1.
It wasn't until at least late 90s, right?
I looked at PlayStation. They're talking about the remake of the PS1. When did the PlayStation release? Because I feel like this probably came out. Okay, PlayStation came out in 1994, so we're talking 1993. This is like the tail end of Super Nintendo, right? Like
Wait,
this is when
when
they're
did Super Nintendo come out?
it came out. So the NES came out in like 86, and so I'm guessing Super Nintendo must have come out like 90 or 91, something like that. If you think about like 4 years of a game's life of a console's life cycle, like that. Yeah,
Mm.
so this is kind of the tail end. Like Star Fox is like tail end of Super Nintendo because they're really maxing out the hardware and they started adding chips to the cartridges and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's also why we're not really knowing much, seeing much about this game
Mm.
because it kind of came out towards the end, I think. Like a lot of the heavy hitters had already hit and Nintendo is
Mm.
probably.
Yeah.
Maybe this is in the middle of like Sony and Nintendo having that falling out, and Nintendo's like development went sideways. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, I saw ads for it, but I never heard about anybody playing it. I never had an inkling to play it. I don't even think I saw reviews for it when it came out.
Well, look at this. 30 years later, we're reviewing it, baby. And Enix made other games that I personally like. Soul Blazer. It's a game I played, heck, even in grad school. Awesome. Ogre Battle, game that I know is really good. Did you ever play Ogre Battle?
Oh, I love Ogre. So it's like Final Fantasy Tactics before Final Fantasy
Yeah.
Tactics came out. So that I was always like, why do people care about that when Ogre Battle's been doing it? But yeah, Ogre Battle is legit. We should probably play one of those games. So they're like really long.
Ooh. Yeah, no. Yeah. Enix games, dope. So we both like those games. Any other I mean obviously I was before I guess Square Enix, right? But any other Enix, I know you like your developers and all that publisher stuff. Any other notes?
So Enix is like they were famous. They were famous for the Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior series. So like for the longest time, like NES through Super NES era, it was always like you were either like a Dragon Quest guy or a Final Fantasy guy. And so this came out in that era when Enix was their own company. So for people that don't know, now there's Square Enix, right? That's the merger of Square and Enix. Um, but back in the day, they were direct competitors. So I never paid attention to Enix. I didn't really like RPGs as a kid. So I didn't know much about Enix in general. But I was surprised to see they made this game. I was also surprised we played Soul Blazer. That game freaking rules. So
Game was awesome. Yeah.
I think they just didn't have a big following in America, and that's why I didn't hear about it or something like that. But yeah, I need to go back to the whole Enix Super NES catalog, I think, and just figure out what I
Maybe we
missed.
should just have we play every Enix game.
Enix Jizz podcast. Yeah.
I love it. So here and more of the background very quickly. I think it's important, especially some of these older games. How do we play these, right? So
Yeah.
the whole reason this game came about is that Alex and I went to school together. That's how we know each other. And during that time, people remember, when you're in school, you're poor. You're like dirt poor, right? You're scrounging by, you're eating, leftover Taco Bell. You need money. We came up with this genius idea of find these Super Nintendo games that are incredibly rare. Earthbound is like 190 bucks. E.V.O, A Search for Eden is I think at least 180, maybe 250. Mega Man X is like 200. You can keep going down the line. Final Fight 2, all these games, right? They're really expensive. You buy reproduction cartridges from China. And I do have to admit, this was your idea, right, Alex?
So the genesis of the idea was you wanted to play these cool, rare Super Nintendo games just in general because you had a Super Nintendo at your house. So you would buy these games at full price, play it, and then sell it on eBay for like marginally more than you paid for, which was genius. But I think you had a game that you couldn't find, like you just couldn't get, and you wanted to play it. So I introduced you to the reproduction cartridges, which are like you can get them for really cheap from Chinese
20
distributors or something like
bucks.
that.
Yeah, 20
It's
bucks.
basically a pirated game, although ethically I don't feel too bad about it because like these games aren't being sold anywhere, so nobody's really like losing money except for the collectors, and you're not trying to like scam anybody. So it's yeah, like we would get these reproduction cartridges for like super cheap, and we'd play these games, and that was the hustle.
It was great. Absolutely fantastic. We love reproductions. I've got
Yeah.
some still. Anyhow, so that's how E.V.O. A Search for Eden was one of those games that was so expensive. I'm not going to pay 200 bucks for this frigging game. So I've always wanted to play it. I didn't buy the real game. I'm playing on a reproduction cartridge, but it saves. It works perfectly. It's 20 bucks. I'm using it on the original Super Nintendo.
Oh, nice.
Works flawlessly. The controller for the Super Nintendo is not as great as I remember.
Yeah, yeah. That's a mushy D-pad, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's the problem. Like
yeah.
the comfort is there, but yeah, the D-pad's too mushy. But you suck, and you wanted to modernize the way you play, right?
Yeah, so Adam, you're playing on a Super Nintendo. Are you connected to like a HD TV? Like what's your Super Nintendo connected to?
Yeah, they've got the little AV jacks, and I have like a what do you call it, a converter and that
Oh,
goes
okay.
to it's an older TV, but by no means is it a CRT TV,
Yeah.
whatever you
How's
call
it
it.
how's
Yeah,
it look on there? Like
looks
looks
fine.
fine? Okay. All
It's
right.
maybe a little, yeah, no, it looks fine. I have no problems. Yeah.
The reason I mentioned it is because I like to play old games. I got a lot of old games, and so I got this guy an analog pocket, which is this fancy. It looks like a Game Boy, right? It's designed like a Game Boy, but it's an FPGA, which I forget what that stands for, but it's basically hardware that can be used to emulate directly other other video game systems. So it's instead of like an emulator, it's actually using the hardware to behave like the original hardware. And so I got E.V.O search for Eden on here. But what's nice is through that emulation, quote unquote emulation, it's actually upscaling things so that it would look good on an HD TV and stuff like that. I've only been playing it on the small screen. It's like backlit and it looks super sharp and nice. And it's got a CRT filter you can apply on any game. But I do have a dock that connects us to the TV, and then I can get like upscaled versions of these Super Nintendo games. So this is what I'm playing it on. If I have complaints that seem like they're, you know, consistent with playing on a handheld, that might be it. But I think the controls feel a little bit better than the Super Nintendo controls. Just the D-pad's a little bit better. Although this isn't a great D-pad, but when I connect it to my TV, I can use whatever controller I want. Okay, Adam?
Can you use the DualSense?
Probably, I think so. I think anything Bluetooth you could probably connect to it. So yeah, I'm
Nice.
looking. I haven't. I have the dock. I just haven't opened it up. So I'll be playing with that
Uh,
this weekend.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So I feel like with the Silent Hill review, it worked well, Alex, that we just got into it. All right. Like
Okay. Yeah.
we were just like, let's lay the marbles on the table and talk about the game. And let's just answer the big question everyone wants to know. Do you believe in evolution?
Yeah. 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 Is that what you sure? Yeah.
No, are you serious? I'm being serious.
Oh yeah. I don't know how not. Like
Oh my, you're an idiot. No, wait. I believe in micro evolution. I don't believe in macro evolution.
what's the difference in it? Are we if you want to make this that kind of podcast, Adam, what's the
Dude,
difference?
I will master debate you so hard. Uh so macro is like the big stuff. Like,
Like
hey,
single
you're a monkey and then you turn into a human, or you're completely changing, whereas
Yeah.
micro is like, I don't remember. There was an example of like a bird who had like a normal beak, and it had like trouble getting nectar from the flowers of that region, and then
Yeah.
over time the beak got a little bigger. Same
So
bird.
you're talking about adaptation. So like microevolution could just be called adaptation. The animals slowly adapt to
I'm
what they
sure there's
need, right?
probably got to be some difference even between those. Now, what do I know? Like, do I know the difference? No, but you're. I did. That was mainly just to be a joke, Alex. Of course, you would say that you believe in it. I don't know if you actually do or not.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. We'll
Of
just
course,
yeah.
I hate you
Yeah.
so much. Of course, you would.
So okay,
Seriously.
then let's go into the plot of this game, and we can just put it as for Adam. It's like a fanciful, fictional, just absolute lie of a lie of
Do
a
you
game.
understand? Okay, Darwin's look. Okay, his understanding of biology, admittedly, was pretty advanced, and it did qualify him for a particular like work in a type of cell. Do you know what cell that was?
What? Oh, a prison cell? Is this some kind of one of those Adam jokes?
A padded one, a padded cell. Because he's freaking nuts. He sucked. Anyhow, yeah, this is stupid. F you, Alex. I hate you. But let's get into the game. You're right, because I don't want to. I don't want to embarrass you by proving to you that evolution is absolute effing trash. I can't believe you just
If
said.
we need a Patreon, so I can have a Patreon special where I just rake you over the coals regarding your takes on this. But no, we will save that for the Patreon special. Send us money and we'll do that episode. Otherwise, let's get into the game.
The people, I already just burnt that guy's will to a crisp. You don't want the heat, brother. You don't want the heat. I swear I'll take my shirt off. Don't challenge me. Here's the thing. This game, again, I really love because the whole time I knew the premise was you start out as some little insignificant animal and you slowly evolve bigger and bigger. I love that idea. It is brilliant. And I didn't even know how they would execute it or what is in that, but I love the idea. So when you go into the game, there's the sun, it creates Gaia, which actually Gaia ends up I thought it was just going to be Earth, but it's actually a woman. And it's like, hey, every billion years life is going to be formed, and if they show the ability to sort of survive, you two can meet me in Eden. So first question, Alex, as I mentioned, Gaia is a woman, and you only see her head and you see kind of her shoulders. She's not wearing a shirt or
And
anything.
her beautiful flowing hair, which is kind of reminiscent of the oceans. Yeah.
Exactly. How motivated were you to see if she was wearing a bra?
Oh, I mean,
First,
now I'm
first thing,
motivated.
first thing I was like, is she wearing clothes?
I just assumed not, but I also assumed 1993 games weren't ready to be that racy.
Only one way to find out. Pan that screen down,
How do I
boy.
zoom out on my Super Nintendo? How do I zoom out?
I kept trying like the phone, like trying to pinch in to zoom out. I was like, no. Anyhow, that's first thing I thought of. Very simple plot. I forgot how simple older games are where again, you may not get to play the game in a newer game for 40 minutes because you have freaking cutscenes and plot explanations and tutorials.
Yeah.
Once you had that, what, 3 minute introduction of the plot, you're in the game. What do you think about that as the foundation of the game?
Yeah, I mean, you know what the game, you know it's a game about evolution. I mean, I think it's nice that there's a little bit of a story there. And I'll be honest, like it's a little bit for how little there is, it really sets up what you're doing in the game very well and very rapidly. I mean, a lot of those older games, right? They don't really belabor the point too much because they can't, right? Every wall of text is like a megabyte that they can't use for the rest of the game. So they got to be careful what they pick and choose for text back then. I thought it was done pretty well. The intro screen is actually, pretty impressive for the time with like the floating planets and the color
Yeah.
palette and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, I thought the setup was good. Like I knew there was gonna be evolution. I didn't know that it was gonna be like, hey, you're the chosen one. You need to evolve. You're the lineage that's evolving till eventually you can live with me in Eden. I was like, that's okay. That's a clever setup. I'm ready to go with it. Now, am I like when my character dies, am I like, oh no, I disappointed at Gaia? No, it's not nothing really pulling at me. But I appreciate older games for how much they can set up for how little they have to set things up with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like you ultimately there's oh, I need to survive and I need to evolve, but now you have a reason why you need to, rather than just survival, which again, if it's not
Yeah,
real life, who cares? But now I'm like, is she wearing a bra? The only way I can find out is at the end if I'm in Eden with her, and maybe I'll see. I don't know.
should we
So
just turn this into an episode about whether or not Gaia is wearing a bra? I mean, I think there's strong evidence no.
they make ones that don't have straps on the shoulders now, man. Like
But
if they
I don't think bras had been evolved yet.
Yeah, yeah. You don't know. He said every billion years. Well, what happened if a billion years had already gone by? The last race didn't make it. Anyhow.
She's
So
got she's got a bra from the Protean race last time that tried. I didn't like them. They didn't make the cut, but these braziers are nice. Yeah, okay.
you never know. You never know. So the one thing I like the idea that it's pick up and play. You're playing within 3 minutes, the actual game.
Yeah.
That's cool. One thing I don't know if I like hated it, but it took me back just because I forgot how games were back then. There's no tutorial. Like I'm telling you, there
Yeah.
is zero. You don't
No,
know,
there's not zero. Like,
dude. You could eat a crystal and it's very vague. Like, hey, guess what? If you evolve your tail, you get more health. If you evolve your
right,
jaw, your attack increases. But it doesn't tell you how to evolve. I
right.
had to look it up. So I started and I ate, you start as a little fish,
Yeah.
and then you go and you eat jellyfish and other fish. You eat their meat, and then that gives you evolution points that then you can evolve. So I did that a lot until I kept progressing till I died, and I was like, I don't know how to evolve. I thought it would automatically evolve once I got enough points. I
Yeah,
didn't know. I had to look it up.
yeah.
Was it
So
intuitive to you how to actually evolve?
no, but there's a couple things at play here because like back in this era, right? Like you would get a game, and because they couldn't put all the stuff in the game, you'd have that game manual, right? And like that's what everybody would do is they'd get the new game before they play, they would look through the manual just because it was fun to do, right? You'd be in the back of your mom's car driving home with your new game. You read through the manual, see what's going on. Nowadays, like they don't even make manuals anymore, so like it's incumbent to put the tutorial in the game. But I would imagine when this game came out, it was just expected that somebody's going to go through the book and see what needs to be done. And then on the other hand, like there's not much you can do in video games in this era. So like what I do when I play one of these games is like I do a little bit, move around and stuff, and then I just start pressing buttons. I got to figure out what everything does, right? Like, is there a smart bomb I'm dropping? Is it what is every button doing on this Super Nintendo controller? You got like six buttons you can press. And so then I found like, oh, there's the select button that takes you to the evolution screen. And so I kind of knew that from the get go. But you did make it interesting. There was an interesting thing that you brought up briefly was like you're just a fish in the ocean. There's a jellyfish that kind of just tells you like, hey, here's what's up, man. You got to like eat and evolve and become the best you can. And that's about it. And at that, and then there's like some little seaweed at the bottom. And I've played games like this, like on the phone and stuff. And usually it's you always start off you always start off eating like the seaweed and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna eat seaweed until I evolve. Let's just get this going. And I didn't even think to eat that jellyfish, dude, because I was like, he's talking to me. I'm not gonna be
Yeah,
eating the
dude, I
jellyfish.
felt so bad. The first thing I did was like, F him, but you eat him. I bit him and he died.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like a douche.
No, yeah. So I didn't even try to eat him on the first screen. Next screen, there's like another fish. I'm like, this dude's gonna get it. This, and then he bit me, and I was like, this dude's definitely getting it. I ate him, but then I ate them all, and there was nothing left. And I was like, well, how am I gonna evolve? Because I just ate all these dudes. And then I went up and stacked on a jellyfish, and I was like, oh snap, I can eat the jellyfish too. Went back to the first screen. I was like, there's no way they're gonna let me eat jellyfish, bro. And then I ate the hell out of him, and then I felt really bad about it.
Yeah, I did too. Good thing is if you go off screen, they keep replenishing the enemies. So yeah,
Yeah.
he came back. He reincarnated since evolution's true, so is reincarnation, right? But yeah, I Alex, do you right now, would you prefer to have a manual and not a long tutorial? Or would you prefer like nowadays the tutorial's built in, but it's your first 30, 40 minutes of the game?
No, I hate when a game is like belaboring the introduction. My favorite games are the ones that intuitively introduce you to the concept. Now, if it is like a pop-up real quick that's like, hey, hit the A button to jump, hit the B, whatever, that's fine. But like a really good example is the original Mega Man X. Like you start on a screen and the first thing you realize is like you can't run left, you can only run right. And the game just introduces you to that without telling you. And so you start running right. And then the next thing you learn very quickly is like there's just like a ledge. And so you start pressing buttons and you learn how to jump. And then you're running right, and then you learn to jump over enemies and stuff. And like all the stuff, it's like a master class in game, like educational game design, that level. Because everything you see in it like teaches you how the game works without it explicitly laying out to you like, here's how you shoot, here's how you do charge shot, here's how you dash. And I like that. And this kind of felt like that, right? Like I didn't understand all the mechanics until 2 hours into the game. There was still some I had to look up a little bit, but for the most part, I was kind of nudged along in the right direction to figure out what was happening when I needed to know um, how it worked.
Yeah. I feel like with a manual you would definitely be fine. Like
Yeah.
there's other things too on the original Super Nintendo where I didn't know how to save.
Mm.
I knew how to I needed to save, but
Yeah.
I had no idea that oh, you have to go to the world map and then you hit select and then you can save, but then wait, you can save the game or you can save an evolution. What's even the friggin' difference between that?
Yeah.
It doesn't explain. And so, like, I didn't know any of that. Again, thankfully, there's the internet, so not a big deal. But one thing that, again, is the kind of charm of older games. But if you choose to play a game like this, if somehow we convince you to go and play it as a listener, stuff to know. Like, it's a Super Nintendo game, but again, it's
Download the
all bad.
manual. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
So, any other, I think the next segment will hop into the actual gameplay and the worlds and things. Any other comments about either the setup, the maybe quickly, how do you think the game looks graphically?
I thought the game looked really, really good. Like
Yeah.
we're going back to a Super Nintendo game after like Silent Hill 7. I was like, man, it's gonna look old and stuff. No, the sprites are popping, the backgrounds are interesting, everything's colorful, and the sprites aren't too tiny and they're not too big. Like the real estate is used really well. So I jumped in. I had no issues. It was looking great. Um, yeah, looking better than I remembered Super Nintendo games looking, I'll be honest. It looks like a Game Boy Advance game, like that level of graphical quality, which is pretty good for the time.
Yeah, I agree. It did look very good, and I love that it was detailed and clear enough that they were able to add character to the game.
Yeah.
What I love is the facial expressions of your creature when you get hit. Like his eyes pop out and get like kind of
Yeah.
bucky, or when you get different jaws and you attack and bite somebody, they each have their own different animations. And the little, pixel sprites, whatever you want to call them, are detailed enough where it makes a difference. And you can see how, oh, that's, shark jaw is more menacing. There's more wind up and more pressure on the bite than, say, the bite you had when you very first started when you were a little fish. Like it is good. I was impressed
Yeah.
by that for sure.
Yeah, there's little adjustments you make. The evolutions you can choose are very minor sometimes, but the game is detailed enough to show you can recognize that difference, whether it be like the different horns you have or the different jaws you have. Like jaws are very subtle, but you can tell what level you're at based on that. So yeah, impressive stuff there. But Adam, let's get out of here. Let's get into segment two where we can really dive into the game.
That's right. Can't wait to talk about it. High level review. You're a fish. You need to kill other animals for their meat to get evolution points. And that evolution points allow you to evolve different parts of your body as an animal. And then we're gonna hop into world number one, the world before land. That's next segment on Gaming is in Session. Stay with us. We'll see you on the other side of the break, folks.
All right, it is time for segment two of Gaming is in Session, our special discussion on E.V.O, the search for Eden. We laid out what the game was for you guys. Adam and I want to go into the details of our experience with the first, 2 hours, Adam? It's about a 10-hour game, something like that.
Yep.
So we played 2 hours, basically got through the first two worlds of the game. And let's dive right in, Adam. The first world is the world before land. So as we talked about a little bit, you start off as basically a fish and you're swimming around in these watery areas and you're evolving things like a tail, which helps you move faster. You get fins, which make you more agile. You evolve your jaws so you can bite things and deal more damage every time you bite. Because at its heart, the game is almost like an action RPG, right? Where you have these skill points that kind of progress. And instead of leveling up and saying, I want blah, 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 you level up and you say, I want to level up and evolve my fin. I want to level up and evolve my jaw. And those help out your stats in terms of like agility or defense or your attack power and stuff like that. Which I thought was nice. The reason I didn't like RPGs as a kid on Super Nintendo was I hated turn-based stuff back then. And this would have been right up my alley, where it's like an action RPG, like Secret of Mana type stuff, where you're still actively playing the game. But yeah, this first world, Adam, World Before Land, what were your initial thoughts just starting off as a fish? Was that where you thought this game would start?
It wasn't. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I guess it makes sense. I love the fact that this game adds. I did not anticipate there being strategy in the game at all.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought it was going to be you do stuff and you evolve. That's how it is. You
Yeah.
start out as a monkey, end up as a man. I didn't think it was going to be you have these various areas that you choose what to evolve. Early on, the game does tell you, remember, some evolutions de-evolve other things. So I'm kind of making, I don't remember a good example, but if you, for example, you evolve your fin, your dorsal fin, that makes you faster. But then if I also totally evolve my body to raise my defense, it's going to I'm going to lose the speed that I gained by upgrading my dorsal fin. So there's that strategy of number one, in early on in each world, you're weak. You're like the weakest thing, right?
Yeah.
So what am I going to focus on to get up to speed? Do I want to focus on attack and be more fragile, or do I want to become a little more bulky and raise my HP? And then what things do I need to evolve and maximize without lessening the other things? Like that strategy I did not think would exist in a game like this, and I love it. Did you find a similar love for that component of the game?
I love the idea of it. I will say, and it might just be because we're early in the game, it seemed underutilized. Like basically, when you're evolving, to me, it was just like, all right, grind and eat as much animals to get evolution points so that you can just evolve to the highest level of whatever is on the list. Get the most expensive tail, get the most expensive jaws, get the most expensive fin, and you're going to be in a good spot, right? Like they present it as if like you're going to need some strategy to get the best thing and evolve the right way, but more or less, it was just like, all right, is there something I can get lower on the list? Let's do that. Something I can get lower on the list. Let's do that. And there are like gradations to it, right? There's like a 100 point fin, a 200 point fin, a 1,000 point fin. And what was disappointing was that like none of those, even if I jumped from like no fin to the biggest fin, I didn't feel a huge difference in the ability. Really, the most marked change I saw was get the highest evolution of jaw, so you can deal the most damage. Get the highest evolution of body, so you have the most defense, and then make yourself as big as possible, so you have the most hit points. Now, again, we're still early on in the game, so maybe that gets more important later on. But in my limited testing that I did, it didn't make much of it. Like I felt no drawback, right? Every time I evolved something, I never felt like I lost anything. The only thing that did bother me was you can in almost every level so far you can evolve a horn. And one thing they don't tell you is if you double tap one of the directions, your fish will dash or your animal will dash. And if you have a horn when you're dashing and you run into something, it'll attack them with like a really like double your hit points, like a critical strike with that horn, which is really powerful. What sucks is that horn like always breaks after 3 hits, no matter what you're doing. Like you could be hitting weak enemies. Like you would think the highest level horn, I could hit the small guys as many times as I want. Oh, it's only going to break when I hit like a big guy. But no, it just seems like you hit 3 things and it breaks and you're done. Um, but again, I
See,
love the
I
idea.
didn't know that. I've
Yeah,
I evolved the horn. That's like another thing. How did you learn that? Because I probably honestly played more than you because the last boss took me forever to beat, which it didn't for you. So, like, how did you learn that? It never told you.
how did I learn that the horn did like you had to dash to use the horn?
Yeah.
I think I got the horn and none of the buttons. I was expecting a button to be like horn stab or something like that, and nothing worked that way. But then I knew I had the dash, and I was like, well, I guess I just have to. The horn is always right in front of you, so I just figured let's dash and see what happens.
Huh.
And then that like after I was and when it first happened, I was like, this is awesome. I've like leveled up. I got this mega weapon now. And then it broke, and I was like, well, I'm never doing that again because that cost a whole lot of evolution points, and it
Yeah,
didn't
so
do
then
jack
you
shit
got
for
to
me.
get
Yeah,
the whole 1,000 evolution points
yeah,
again.
yeah. Which sucked.
Oh,
Like if it would make sense to me, like the horn should be invincible for smaller enemies if I had the high level horn. But no, it just
yeah.
seemed to keep breaking. And I hate when expensive things break in games because it's like I'm just never going to do it again. That's why I didn't like Breath of the Wild, Zelda Breath of the Wild. You'd get this amazing sword and it would break after like 20 hits, and it's like I'm not going through that struggle again to do that when I can get something just like half as good, like laying on the ground everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So
it's a very interesting game design mechanic, though. I'll say.
I will I do think there is a concern that reiterating what you said, that ultimately maybe it's not that much strategy because you just need to evolve stuff. However, I will admit there are two instances where what you said in a minor way is incorrect, at least in my mind.
Okay,
So
yeah. What is it?
in the first world, the to flesh this whole concept out for the listeners, you're a little fish, right? And I decided I didn't know what I was doing initially. So I bought a tackle fin. No idea what that did. It just made me a little faster. Initially, you're pretty slow. So I was like, okay, let's speed this up. Enemies weren't difficult anyhow. Then I bought the jaws, the first set of jaws, so I could attack higher. And then I grinded for only about 3 minutes. Like, although you do need to grind for evolution points, I found that in every level there's a good spot to grind and it doesn't take you that long.
Yeah,
But
and it's pretty
for
fun. Like it's pretty engaging to do the grind too. Like I didn't mind it so much.
I
Some
don't.
levels are better than others, but like it wasn't horrible. It was like refining my skill too, so it was kind of nice. It's better than like a standard RPG turn-based.
It's better than Final Fantasy grind
Yeah,
in
yeah.
like Final Fantasy 2 or something. Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah. So then I upgrade my jaws again, and then I upgraded the shell body to a shell body to get that higher hit points. And then I got a tail, which made me a little faster. Then I got a dorsal fin, which I think made me even more fast. I don't know if it did anything, honestly. But then I went and got a swordfish horn. And again, in the very beginning, I was just upgrading everything, thinking what you thought. Okay, you're just going to want to upgrade everything. However, I noticed with the swordfish horn that I did get faster, but then my attack went down. And I was like, what's
Mm,
that bull crap? And I was like, I don't want that trade-off. That sucks. Now it takes 2 bites to kill things. So I went and I undid that evolution. You can undo them as you're playing the
yeah.
game as well. So that's one case where no, it wasn't just you upgrade everything to its max. Something did suffer, and I chose to go back. And another example was in the World 2 boss, the final boss, the Queen Bee. I struggled astronomically, almost to the point like not that I quit out of rage, because that wasn't the case. I was just like, I'm not having fun. I literally cannot beat it. Like, I can't do it. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm done. And I had max evolved everything on my animal. And they've got wings, and he jumps really high because he's got these, like, I don't know if they're wings. I don't know what you can't
You have a
fly.
you you have wings, but you also get like a tail that's called the spring tail. So the idea is like you're bouncing off your tail to go even higher. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did, I couldn't beat the bee. However, I was like, I don't like how high I'm jumping. So I de-evolved the wings to something like the lesser, and I beat the bee in the first try because I didn't jump as high. So I didn't, it was just easier to fight the boss. And like I said, so in that instance, max evolving everything hurt me. And when I devolved, I did better. And I actually finally beat the freaking boss. So in those two cases, for me, it wasn't simply, oh, just max everything out. There was a little bit of strategy there, which again, is it kind of minor strategy? Sure. But we're in the first two worlds. We have a whole game to go. So
I have
I'm
a counterpoint to that, but we'll talk about it when we get to the end of the second world because
oh, you mean for the
I
queen bee? Okay, okay.
yeah, I do want to talk to you about the first boss we had. In the first world, you're a fish, you going through the fish stuff. It's actually there's a nice little variety in the levels because one is just like you're fighting fish. There's one I think where you're going through and the enemies are pretty much stronger than you and you're kind of just trying to get through it. And then there's like a volcano world, which is like what's nice about this game is although it's relatively simple, they're trying to like show the progression not only of like the animals but like of the environment around animals, right? Like the first world is you're in the ocean and then you get to volcanoes and like all these volcanic eruptions which are something that change the ecology of the ocean early in the early earth, start happening and that's what progresses you into the second world. um, but as you go through the cave, you do meet an enemy, and he's like, "I'm the boss of this world. We are not going to go on land. We're going to hang out here in the water, and you have to kill this boss shark that's like trying to prevent people from evolving past this next evolution step." Um, How'd you like that boss fight? He's a big shark. He hits way harder than you. He's got way more health than you, and you are basically just a fish who can swim.
I think a lot of the bosses are, in general, even before I get into the boss, one negative of the game is like an older Super Nintendo game, the hit detection. There's some things about the game that aren't perfect, and the hit detection is one of them. You have a really large hitbox. In a lot of games, you have post-hit invincibility. So you get hit, and you have just, a second to get out of the way so they don't just keep stacking hits and hits, and then you die from one enemy, even if they're lesser than you. This game is not like that. If you get in a bad position and the enemy comes in at the right angle, I've literally had it where an enemy who is definitely weaker than I am, you get two of them back to back that hit you like 3 or 4 times in a row, in which you can't do anything about it, and I'm dead. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
That isn't great, pretty annoying. However, the opposite is also true for the boss, where you can get the boss in a compromised position, and it's kind of like luck, right? You
Yeah.
bite the thing and it's stunned, just like you are when you get hit. Like I said, it makes that funny face and you're kind of stunned. And then there's a moment that you can just keep biting it. And if you time it correctly and you position yourself in the right way, the boss can't even really attack you. And that's what happened with me with the shark. It happened on accident on this one. Admittedly, I think I got lucky. I didn't die at all. It was the first time I was caught off guard and I kind of lucked out. I mean, I again, like you, I like the concept. I lucked out. I hate boss fights in general, so I was thrilled to get past this as easy as I did. But there is something about like, do I think it was my skill? No. It was definitely more luck. But again, I'll take it. Still enjoyed the scene, the atmosphere, and where the game was taking me.
Yeah. I think yeah, the non-invincibility of the hitbox is annoying, but I can see why it has to be there for challenge purposes. Like if anybody hit me, like once you evolve your body, it's like everything does one damage to you and you have like 50 hit points. And so it's like nothing's gonna hurt you. And if you had that post-hit invincibility, like you're never gonna get hurt. But it does get annoying when you get stun locked, right? You have two enemies back to back just knocking you back and forth and they take away 10 hit points when it's like shouldn't be a thing. The
Yeah.
annoying thing is it seems inconsistent sometimes. Like the way there's not like an attack animation you have to dodge. Really, when you get hit, when they consider the enemy attacking you, it's like if you just touch an enemy, if your hitboxes intersect, you take damage and you're considered to be hit. Even if you're like touching the tail of the enemy is touching you. So they're not even biting you, but the tail's touching you. That kills you, which kind of disappointed to me because I was thinking like maybe there's some strategy about like getting behind the enemy and biting their tail rather than biting them head on. But really, it kind of becomes like luck of the draw. You just have to time it right. That like I need to make sure I'm in the middle of my bite animation when our hitboxes connect, and then I win that kind of rock paper scissors battle right there. Regarding the shark boss, the strategy there was like you have to go to one side of the screen, and he has a dash move, and then you have to move down when and have him dash into the wall. Then he gets stunned, and you can do like massive damage to him. You can just be biting his ass all day.
Hmm.
Um, and then he'll dash away or something like that because there's like a little bit of knockback everywhere. You get bit, you'll knock back a bit. You bite them, they knock back a bit. And if you can really get the rhythm right, you can be biting them as they knock back and move back and get them. But yeah, that's how you got to fight that guy, which I like. I don't like boss fights that are too gimmicky, like Mario World, where it's like there's just a simple trick, and once you know the trick, it's done. I like boss fights where it's a combination of that, and this has that. It's like you got to have the dexterity to pull off the trick, and the trick is to get him to ram into the wall so you can get that massive damage, and then dodge, and then try to set him up for that again. I really like that kind of boss fight. The controls leave a bit to be desired. You're not so agile to where it makes sense when you fail, but I appreciated that boss fight at least. It was a good first world boss, I thought.
Yeah, I think the bosses in general, for the most part, follow the major bosses, that is, follow the theme of, for example, like a Mega Man boss, or where
Yeah,
there's some dexterity and cleverness to it, but yeah, it's not just pure brute force. Now, I
yeah.
admit, I think that so far the Mega Man bosses have done it a little better, but it's that same genre. Whereas, like now, you play a Astrobot, it's a different boss. that we play now than back in the Super Nintendo. And it's got that old school charm, I feel like.
Yeah.
One thing to also know is if you die, unlimited continues, thank gosh. But the only thing you have your evolution points, and when you die, you lose half of them. And then you can respawn at the start of that level. The levels are very short,
Yeah.
which I kind of appreciate, right? So if you die, you don't lose a lot. And for the most part, what I've done is when you get to a point where you have a lot of evolution points, you don't hoard them. You use them because yeah, if you die, you're going to lose a bunch of them and then you have to grind it up again. So it doesn't punish you too much for when you die. So I like that as well. But the first world, there you go. Shark was the last boss. And as I like what you mentioned there, Alex, and you're seeing the world kind of evolve as you yourself are evolving. And then you go into the next world, which is the early creatures of land, and now you're an amphibian. Do I don't so yeah, what do you think about the amphibian? What do you think like the we've already kind of talked a little bit about the art, but how did you feel going from a fish to an amphibian?
I thought it was a clever segue because like one of the last things you evolve are like those hand fins, like fins on a fish that are almost
Yeah.
like hands. And the last move you do is like you jump out of the water. To get to the last level, you jump out of the water and you land on land, just like the early fish did back in the day. And it says like, oh, we have an evolution. Even though it's the exact same animal, they evolve it so the game mechanics change, and then you start walking. And in that world, you kind of have the option. There's some worlds that there's some levels that are in the water and some levels that are in land. And I thought that was pretty clever that like you're kind of mixing both. You jump in the water, you swim around, you jump out, you're on land, you run around. I thought that was nice. I liked World 2 because World 2 introduced a new mechanic, right? The jumping, which to me I thought was just platforming. And it took me until like the third or fourth level to realize, oh, this is a platform and you're jumping. You can jump on enemies to attack them just as much as you can bite them now, which took me longer than I care to admit to find out that that's
Huh.
like your primary method of like hurting enemies. Because I was biting everything and getting my ass kicked until I learned you land on an enemy and that kills them, and that makes the jump evolution really important.
Yeah. I so again, first world, you're a fish in the water. Second world, now you're an amphibian, you're on land, and you go between multiple the world now is a little bigger, so there's more areas to explore. You see different, I don't know if I would you say there are three bosses here? Like, there's one main boss at the very, very end of the world that progresses you to the next world. But then there's also like mini bosses where one of the early ones here, there was like a dinosaur that like you couldn't pass. You had to beat him to move forward. But it wasn't like a super hard boss fight. Like I died maybe once or twice, but
Yeah. Oh, so that's where I learned about the jumping because he's like the king lizard, right? He doesn't want anybody to be beyond a lizard or an amphibian or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And he's on like this level where there's like platforms and stuff. So I was trying to bite him and he kept kicking my ass. And then I jumped when he jumped and I landed on top of him. And because he's so big, you could just keep jumping on him over and over again until he does this like jump move that attacks you. Um, which so I viewed that as like this is where you're learning that jumping does something, which I thought worked really well there. Um, yeah, he wasn't too bad. Like you have that boss, then you have the king bee boss, which is a bee, the insect. So in this world, insects are eating all the plants, and you as an animal trying to evolve to land, you need the plants because that's what you're eating, alongside other animals. Yeah, I didn't mind that first boss though. I thought he was a fun little interlude in the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was fine. Again, I don't like boss fights. Like I would rather another world or something like I like another level. I don't know, but that's not how games back in the day were made, right? I mean, it was
Yeah.
about boss fights. So, but that and the King Bee, I don't think were too bad. And yeah, I like again how that world evolved. You started as like a little amphibian, and there you just you continue to evolve. Now I've got like a spiky back, and I've got a bigger body with more health, and I have horns on my head, and you can have these little wings. And you mentioned a little earlier, you have a longer tail, and then there's a tail with thorns on it, but then there's a tail that has thorns and allows you to jump. So all these things start compounding on each other, and by the end, if you upgrade everything, you kind of look like you start as
Spyro the Dragon.
exactly you look like, but in the beginning you look like a normal, I don't know, like a really dumbed down, like a cross between what, an anteater and a lizard, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Like an amphibious anteater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you look lame. You look like something that's in a Dr. Seuss novel or
Yeah.
novel book, I should say. And then I think it's really neat with each evolution, you see yourself transform and you turn into something that starts to look like an alligator. And I was like, okay, I can get on board with that. I would rather play this than a freaking Dr. Seuss character. But then at the end, you look like Spyro. And I'm like, okay, that's effing dope. All I
Yeah.
needed is a little fire. And so that motivated me to farm for the evolution points. If nothing else, not just to progress through the game, but I'm like, what am I going to look like next? Like, it's exciting and it adds a level of motivation for me to farm for those things where I didn't mind it because I don't know. It's motivational. Did you care at all about that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, if I really cared about it, then I would have taken all of my evolution step by step. I liked it. It made me excited about my evolution to see what I look like next. But really, I was grinding just to make that big jump from like nothing to the highest level one. But it was still exciting to see like, oh, suddenly I have like these awesome dragon wings. I have this awesome tail with like horns on it and stuff like that. That was really fun to see. Still downside, you unlock the head horns. They break after like three uses. That was so I'm not messing with that anymore.
I've never even used the horns. So I mean, I evolved them and I was like, it doesn't do anything. Now it makes sense because I didn't know how to use them. So I mean, at least you got to use them at all.
Yeah.
The other,
What did you think about the bee level? So there's a level where the bees, this is actually a good one. There's little amphibians walking around, and you come in there too. You're one of the amphibians. You start eating those little amphibians. Oh no, actually, you meet like a dad amphibian, and he's like,
yeah,
the insects are coming and they're taking the world. You got to save us. And you're like, I'm gonna do it. And then they start walking off screen, and I was a total asshole. I ran straight up to him and bit him right in the butt. And I was
yeah,
like, I'm gonna eat you too. But then he ran off. But then you go to the next level, and it's those little baby amphibians walking around, and the insects are coming and picking them up and scooping them up and taking them away. And now you're suddenly like feeling for these little amphibians, like, no, those are my homies. You're not taking them. And you start eating the bees. That level was a fun change of pace there that I started feeling like, I'm on a team and they're on the wrong team. I want to kill all these insects. But also, that had some of the worst stun locking ever because there's a day night cycle. In the day, they're scooping up the amphibians and eating them. In the night, they're just coming to eat your ass and they're stabbing you with their stingers and stuff. And
yeah.
I died a couple times there because they were bombing me out with their little stingers.
Yeah, I know. I had to get the first time I got lucky where I was really close to the end of the level and I was able just to jump enough. I almost died, but I got through the level. And then, but it's also a good spot to farm. Like you
Yeah.
can really get a lot of evolution points. You just, yeah, have to know that because you're right. They're coming for you. I think it is interesting that, again, it's an older vintage game. So I think that's sometimes how this is. But they've got these little plot devices
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, that's my son. Or one in this level was very early on. You found like a little amphibian, and he was like, my dad went to talk to the king bee to convince him to let's just share the plant so we can all live. And then you go to the king bee, and that little amphibian's dad comes out and he's like, I'm gonna die. Here, eat my meat to sustain yourself and fight the king bee for the good of the amphibians. And it, like, I didn't anticipate, not saying that it, like, wrecked me emotionally.
You cried. You cried, USOB.
It's almost weird they added this. They're trying to add these little emotional moments in there too, but that's all the further it goes, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not like that plot is going to thicken, and at least not that I know of, and you're not going to see that little amphibian grow up and live in honor of his dad, whatever. But I found that a little. Did that do anything for you, or did you just kind of like write that off and you're like, okay, let me kill this dude?
No,
Like,
it I didn't need it, but it was more than I expected, so I appreciated it. Like I didn't need a story to make me want to go eat all the animals and evolve more. Like the motivation to like just evolve to the biggest alpha creature you can is enough to keep me going. But those little things in there just added a bit of spice to the game, a little flavor to the game to make it more enjoyable than I expected it to be. I mean, it is kind of an RPG after all, but it makes it fun. Like that. This is one of the rare chances where like I'm enjoying these little story interludes because they don't take forever. It's just like blop blop blop, and then it's like, all right, let's get these bees. I freaking hate them now, and then you go on and do it.
yeah, it's still odd. It almost just seems
It seems out of place,
there's
but
no resolution because you don't see the little amphibian again. He's never like, oh, my dad died for us. I'm gonna avenge him, or there's nothing.
that's not how the animal kingdom works, man. You don't have time to dwell on the past. You're
I
moving
guess.
forward.
I get, and not that I like you, I don't care that much, but it's just weird they would add it and then it doesn't lead really anywhere. But something if you're interested in the game to know that it is kind of nice that it's some of that old school charm, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I certainly I like. So the King Bee I thought was that boss fight was pretty intriguing and kind of smart and had a I thought a little bit of cleverness to it. Like you had to know what you were doing. I maybe died once or twice, but I kind of understood that. You think much about the King Bee
Now the
boss?
King Bee was easy, and I thought you were an idiot because I thought you just like saw King Bee but put in Queen Bee when you were texting me, and I was like, oh, Adam just didn't realize that it's actually a King Bee, and I beat it like the first try, and I was like, Adam sucks at this game. I'm
Uh,
so cool, and Adam's an idiot.
yeah, I'm sure that's probably exactly what you thought.
Because at that point I was max evolved, so like I bit his ass like 3 times and he was gone. So I was like, Adam's just not very good. And it looked like you were at the end of the world, but then it's like, nope, now there's you got to go a little bit further. And then you find out that the queen bee's pissed off that you killed the king. And then I was like, oh wait, that's right. Like the queen bee's the real one, like in the beehive that has all the power. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, she was freaking awful.
Okay, so you thought she was bad too.
She was rough. And so this is what I wanted to talk about of like the strategy not really panning out the way I thought it would because I was max evolved, had the biggest, most scales, most horns, most jump, and the
Me
biggest
too.
body.
Yep,
And
me
so I
too.
went into the queen bee, and the queen bee's flying. So her attack pattern is she's flying high up, and then she will shoot 3 darts out of her butt. And since you're not stun locked, or since you don't have invincibility, like each one of those hits you. If you get hit once, you're getting hit by the other two because you can't move, and they
Yeah.
hit you. And then she'll do a dive bomb attack that really damages you. It does like 20 damage and you have like 50 hit points. Um, and she's also high enough to where like the normal jump, you can't jump above her normally. You have to like, oh, you can only get on top of her when she comes down to dive and you got to dodge her for that. And so it was
Mhm.
really clunky. And so I thought, this is where the strategy comes into play. So I de-evolved down to a smaller body. And I was like, I have a smaller body, but I still have big wings. I bet now I can jump way high up and get her ass high up in the sky. But what disappointed me was no, all that did was take away my hit points. And I now had like 25 hit points instead of
Oh,
50, which means I had zero room for error. Um, and then, I died maybe like 10 times and I realized, okay, the game plan now is don't get hit by the stingers. When she comes down, you got to make sure you're dashing when she comes down. And then you can bite her when she's like on the ground for a second. And then that's when it plays to your benefit. I could just bite her continually. Like if she's in the middle of a level and you're like getting the rhythm just right, I bite, move forward, bite, move forward, bite, move forward. And I could get like half of her health down in one attack pattern. So I just had to be perfect twice. And then I killed her before I knew it. But it was a rough boss fight. Part of it because of the technology making it hard to move around, but part of it because I nuked myself by trying to take advantage of the game's mechanics that weren't really fleshed out yet.
yeah. I had probably a little more problems than you. It really probably I bet I died at least 30 times. It was very aggravating. And but then I think it's how you play in what evolution was best. For me, I needed to get rid of the wings. Then I was just jumping too high. So
Oh
what I
yeah,
did is I timed it so when she came to try to bite me, I jumped before, jumped on her, which stunned her, and then let me bite her a couple times. And
Oh,
I
so
kept doing that.
maybe jumping on her was like the stun you're looking for, kind of like the shark would get stunned by hitting the wall. Jumping on her would put her in the stun state so you could really bite her instead of relying on the game
But you could
mechanic of
only
like
bite
blitzing her.
her maybe two or three times, and then she could get away.
Oh no, I got like five out of her.
I see. I at one point I kind of got lucky, and I got that, and maybe I just did something slightly different. But
Yeah.
I mean, you do that four times, and after playing it 30 to 40 freaking times, you get decently good at it. So, but you're right. The fact that one stinger does 6 damage, one bite does 22 damage, you get essentially get hit twice and you're dead. I mean,
Though in hindsight, I think if you use the horn and you time it right, I think you can stab her with the horn and it'll probably do like some big time damage to her. It might be like you stab her twice and she's gone, and you don't have to get lucky with the stun lock. But it was,
I had horns. Again, I
but you
didn't
never
know how to
dashed
use
into her,
them.
right?
And like what one thing I try to do is you enter the level and there's a bit of the level, maybe the first half of it, of the area, it's a side scroller, right? So you
Yeah,
move, but she's not there. So at that point, I was like, I'm just waiting for her to come, and then you have to get the timing right. So
yeah.
I was like, after I died a few times, like, F it, I'm gonna bull rush her. So I was sprinting and she came down and bit me and it still attacked me and it didn't hurt her.
Yeah,
So,
because she gets you above the horn, but if you dodge it, if you let her hit the ground first, then hit her with the horn, that's going to probably wreck her.
mm, yeah, I don't like that to dash. You have to hit the D-pad twice.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good. It doesn't work well on the SNES controller.
I wish it was the R button. Like I wish the R
Exactly.
button. But do you know what the R button does? I found out the hard way.
I don't.
It exits the level. If you hit R, it just takes you out of the level.
I feel like I did, but I used that to my advantage, I think, a couple times. But yeah, okay. It's so weird. Like, why?
Yeah, that's a weird button to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, you have like so many buttons. Why do you have to hit the D-pad twice? It just doesn't feel good, and I try not to use it unless I absolutely have to. Either way, finally got through the Queen Bee. Alex, I'm not gonna lie, to tease up World 3, I played a little more. I'm
Me
sorry.
too. I played a little bit too. Yeah.
F you. So to tease even more, I think I mean, you probably know this. So in World
Yeah.
3, you decide do you want four legs or two legs?
Yeah, I think this is where the strategy of the game starts to actually flesh out because, like, two legs, you can jump really high. Four legs, you have like more attack and stuff on the ground
Yeah.
and better defense and
And I
stuff. Yeah,
got to a point where I was like, and that's where I quit, but I was like, I think I wanted four legs with the defense. But I've gotten
yeah.
to the point where I'm like, I actually think you have to have two legs. Um, I don't know. I still gotta play it. Also, the other thing that I forgot, I ran into some issue and I looked at an online thing. I'm not gonna spoil it. There are Easter eggs and hidden levels and secrets, and they
Ooh.
start in World 3. I don't know how many of them there are.
So maybe this is what this is because there was one level I got to, and there was a big Triceratops. This is the dinosaur world. Yeah. There's a big Triceratops. And it was like, I'm just sitting here waiting for my kid to show up again. And I immediately thought, like, ooh, if I evolve into a tiny Triceratops, am I going to be able to trick him into thinking I'm his kid? And then I bit his ass and he killed me. But
Yeah, yeah, I did too. I tried to kill him. I thought he was a boss, but no, you just walk by him. Bam.
yeah. But so I'm wondering, like, this game's next level cool. If that is what happens, if I turn myself into a Triceratops to go talk to him and that unlocks a level, like this game is doing cool stuff. But if it's just like play through the game and you see another Triceratops and that solves that story, then it's going to be a little bit less charming. Um,
So that's not the secret, but there
okay,
is a secret that personally, I mean, I don't feel too bad that I accidentally read it because I would have never done this. But if you do it, I don't know. Do you want me to tell you?
tell me because I'm not going to figure it out.
There's one level, I don't know if you got to a point, but there are a bunch of rocks that go up. It's almost looks like a pyramid. It's a bunch of rocks. And
Okay,
then I don't know what you call them. Some dinosaur birds that come up and grab you, and then they'll take you to the beginning of the level. So you have to time your bites up right. so that they don't grab you and take you to the beginning of the level just so you can finish the level, right?
Yeah.
However, if you get to the top of that rocks thing and you jump, apparently you turn into a bird. And now you're one of those, and you can go through the rest of the world. You follow, I don't know if you notice on the world map, there's a cloud. You can go into the cloud.
Oh,
And
snap.
there's
Now I got to do it.
addition. Yeah, it's, I would have never guessed. Of course, I would have never done that, but it makes me really happy that there's these secrets that some of the older vintage games have, the good ones. I mean,
That's some depth. That's some depth. Adam, we're running out of time. Let's save this for segment three where we'll talk about what we like, what we don't like, and if we're going to keep playing this game. All right.
let's do it. Cannot wait. Segment three, we're coming down the hatch. Take a guess, folks. We gonna keep playing?
All right. Welcome back. This is a rare three segger egger here for you, but sometimes that happens with these games. It's
When the content's so good, you can't stop.
I guess you could say our show is evolving, Adam. It's funny that like the simplest game is getting three segments out of us for just 2 hours of gameplay, but I think that there's a lot to unpack here. Adam,
Yeah.
let's
I
go
didn't
into
even think
this.
about that. We've talked about the game more than we played the game.
Yeah, really. Sorry, everybody. Adam, let's just go in and bringing this home. What is it that you like about this game? We'll talk about what you like, what you don't like, and whether or not we're going to finish. Let's start off with the good news. What are things that you just genuinely enjoy?
I love the concept. I knew I liked the concept from the very beginning. If those of you who are listening, also, a lot of our listeners in this podcast probably come from our virtual reality podcast where we started. I talked about a game where you making a VR game where, I don't know, maybe you were food and you got eaten and then you turned into no, it started with a turd. You got crapped out of a man's anus and then you went through the sewage pipes through the toilet and then you ended up in the wastewater and then you became fertilizer, then you helped the grass grow and then a cow ate you and then you got murdered because they killed the cow and then you became the beef and then you went into the human. This is kind of the same, almost in the same vein of the concept. It's like the circle of life. I love it. It's intriguing and I didn't even think about the strategy. I got all hot and bothered at the end of the last segment when I was like, I know in the world of dinosaurs, you can become, and I don't know the dinosaur names.
Pterodactyl,
What's the one that looks like a turtle with a really hard head?
Ankylosaurus. That's what I was aiming for.
That
Yeah,
thing. I was
that's the
like,
best one. That's the best dinosaur, bar none, by the way. But yeah,
see, I want to
Ankylosaurus.
see what does that look like, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure since you can have two legs, I'm pretty sure you can turn, and one of the jaws is a T-Rex jaw. So
yeah,
I think you could turn into a T-Rex, and then I just mentioned that thing where you can turn into a bird. So
yeah,
I'm like, I want to see all of those, right?
yeah.
Like I've already mentioned how motivated I was just to see what are the different animations? What do you look like when you're half bird, half T-Rex? I want to know. And then think about it. That also adds replayability because if, you know, right now it would be a lot of work to get to all the E.V.O points to try all three of those different dinosaurs.
But there
It's
is
like,
the green crystal, so you can save an evolution and evolve to it whenever you want. I think you can even save and evolve to an evolution outside of your like specific epic. So you can turn back into Spyro the dragon if you want to, I think. Yeah.
oh,
But
that
really, I
would
think the point is for you to then create, a flying dinosaur, a walking dinosaur, and a crawling dinosaur, and you can kind of bounce between the three whenever you want.
Oh, That's where I would have, oh, that's nice. I would not have thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay, glad you told. That's cool. That's so cool
Hmm.
for a vintage game. Most, dare I say, most modern games aren't that cool. Are they graphically more proficient? Are their tutorials better? Are the hit detection better? All that. Yes, of course, but they don't have that charm, man.
Yeah.
I like how you could pick up and play this. If I only have 20 minutes for a lunch break, by golly, I can, play some music and gain some Evo points and call it a day and go back to work. I Those are things I like about it. That's it. Those are and I hold those in high regard. I don't want to
Yeah.
say that's just the things I like. I like those things very much. I think they're very unique. I There's one big drawback, but before I get to that, I like the game, the aspects I mentioned there more than I even thought I would before when I was like, Alex, let's play this game. But what do you think about it? I knew kind of what I was getting into. This blindsided you the whole game. So
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think.
I thought this game was going to be a side scroller with like 8 levels, and it's like the first level, you're a fish. Second level, you're a dinosaur. Third level, you're a monkey or something like that. I didn't know you're going to have this active evolution taking place, so that's huge. It's like it's like a side-scrolling RPG, and with RPG elements that I really was surprised by, and they seem to have some kind of an effect. I also really like the variety, although it's very simple. There's variety in the game design. Are you primarily biting? Are you primarily jumping around? And we see now that like that's going in a bunch of different directions depending on what you want to evolve into, whether it be bird, T-Rex, or Ankylosaurus, stuff like that. And who knows what's going to happen after dinosaurs, right? Like this is getting
Yeah.
wild. Like, are we going to go back into the water as a shark or a whale or something? I don't know. And so I have a lot of curiosity about where this game is going to branch off into because it seems like there's a bunch of directions it can go. Are there multiple endings? I'm very surprised by the variety in the game. And but then, like you mentioned, just the sheer ingenuity, right? It's a very big idea of tackling the entirety of evolution in a 16-bit Super Nintendo game. I mean, my favorite level in Res is Res Area 5, which you start as like a single cell organism and evolve all the way up into humans and then a bird and then fly away onto the next evolution, whatever that may be. And then it's a really, really cool theme to explore. This game is exploring the theme in a, that same theme kind of a childish, kiddish way, but it's simple and it's fun and it's
And it's got
engaging and
thought behind it, right? Like you mentioned, that
it's
the areas change, and there's a reason behind the evolution, not just oh you're a bee now, but there's
right.
a reason you're an amphibian. And then what's the natural progression of an amphibian? Okay, something that could turn into something like a dinosaur. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't want to say there's science behind it, but there's clearly reasoning in why the things are progressing the way they do.
Yeah, and then there's a simple, charming story kind of motivating things, but the overall thing is like, oh, it's kind of progressing the evolution of the Earth and the evolution of the animals, and it's all pretty, it seems pretty accurate from what I know. I'm not no, biologist by any means, but it's doing a good job. So the big thing I like though, Adam, and it kind of upsets you, is that this game is teaching me things, Adam. You were complaining about the shark, and I said, Adam, just like in real life, Evo's teaching you that strategy can only help you so much. Sometimes success in life just required a little bit of luck. In this game, it's not just evolution, it's life philosophy. The biggest takeaway, Adam, you need to remember is that in the society, it doesn't matter what you can do. Sometimes it just matters what you're born into. Were I not born into an ocean with a friendly jellyfish who told me the rules of life, I would not have become the king of the ocean. Remember that, Adam, as you're thinking about navigating through your own life, all right? Remember the privilege you have. You're a privileged man. But the real thing is, Adam, is this reminded me, the be all end all of philosophy in video games reminded me of a little Sega Master System game called Enduro Racer, where you're just racing this stupid little 8-bit car, jumping over ramps and stuff. And it's just very simple, about as simple as a game can be, but you get to the end and it hits you with a paragraph telling you that Enduro Racer is a symbolic journey. The results don't matter. What really matters is competing. You're an Enduro Racer of life. You're a life rider. It's about overcoming all the struggles. And this is one of the only other games that's like kind of coming out of the gate and being like, there's more to life, man. This is a big deal. You're playing this simple dinosaur game, but there's more stuff going on. I like that it's hitting me on those hitting me in that spot that you never seem to want games to hit you in.
No,
Um,
I like hitting those games hitting me there. I think like something like a Near Automata did, right? It's just like the Enduro Racer just like cheesy. However, I do agree this game, although it's not there yet, it could by the end of the game, right? You could say, even the simple tagline at the very end, something like, remember, don't quit evolving or something, right? That's like a personal pick me up. Like, you do it, man. Be the best you can be. Keep evolving. I don't know if it will do that, but it could. Um, yeah, I think it's also intriguing as you're thinking about these things, Alex, are the moments where you have to grind, which admittedly is a little bit, it's not too long, but it is pretty mindless.
yeah.
Does that give you the time to think about these things and that's why you're diving into these holes? Or are you just an active person that's constantly thinking and even while you're just playing the action parts of the game, you're like, oh, maybe I need to define the tale of my life and gain more health and bullcrap and blah blah blah.
It's not the second one, but I think there's a if you play the game, if you play games sometimes with a bit of mindfulness, some games won't reward you with it. There's games that are just stupid games. It's just games, right? It's like a mobile game on your phone. But there's some games that reward a little bit of mindfulness and the design is mindful. This game seems pretty mindful in its design. And in that same vein, I could make it just a game design philosophical justification for why you have to grind. Evolution is not an immediate process. You're not just eating a big fish, eating the next big fish, eating the next big fish. There is that stage where things are stabilized. They even call to it in the fish level where you run into coelacanths, which were like this dormant fish historically that never evolved. And supposedly you might still be able to find one that is the same fish that it has been for millions of years because they don't have any predators, they don't have any prey, they don't really fight each other. So there's no reason for them to gain a competitive advantage over anything. So they just continue to exist the way they exist. You see that fish, and they even tell you outright, nobody's eating us. We're not eating each other, so we're going to stay the way we are. And you probably that'd be amazing if you run into them later in the game. But I love that. But this is, they don't come out. I don't like when a game hits you on the nose with its philosophy or the spirit of the game. I like it when you're playing the game and the actual gameplay itself kind of puts you in the mindset of like, yeah, this is evolution. It's a dog eat dog world. That jellyfish was nice to me. Time for me to eat his ass because I gotta just survive, man. It's me or him. Eat or be eaten. And so when I'm grinding, it's mindless. Sometimes it goes on a bit too long, but it's just like that's the name of the game, man. These smaller fish got to go down so I can get big and take out the big ones. I got to turn into that next animal.
Yeah, I think it's intriguing. I mean, some of the things I don't love. You're right. The grinding can. I mean, even in World Two, started to like I had to put music on to
Mhm.
grind for the 15, 20 minutes maybe. I'm also one of the ones that I would rather grind early on and get powerful as soon as possible
Yeah,
and then wreck the rest of the level. Whereas, like in World 2, I believe it wasn't until the near end of the level that you can go back in the water and kill these little crustacean looking things that give you like 500 Evo points.
yeah,
But I had already maxed out everything before then because I was like, I don't know when I'm going to run into a boss, and I just want to be all powerful right now. So, I don't know. But so that to get to that point, I already had to like put on music, and I watched a football game while I grinded for Evo points. Like, that's not fun, right? That's not the
yeah.
mark of a
That's not
good
good
game.
game design, I don't think. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It is maybe it's partly my fault. The other thing, some of the this game made me realize I take modern video game music for granted. I really do. Some of the levels have horrible music.
yeah, I'll agree. Yeah,
And I'm like, wow, this is bad. Which is another reason why one of the levels I was grinding on had bad music, and I was like, I gotta listen to something else. And so again, that's not a big thing. Like that's not going to prevent me from playing the game whatsoever. What will prevent me, not necessarily from playing the game, the difficulty I am extremely worried about because we've already talked about how some of it feels like luck. Maybe there's some strategy involved, like strategy and luck, but some of it I definitely feel is luck. And then two, it's extremely difficult. I'm on the World 2 boss, and it took me like 30 tries, 40 tries to beat it. To the point where, again, not that I'm like getting really upset and I'm just mad, but I was like, I'm just not going to be able to beat it. So it's not like one of these games like Outer Wilds where I'm so miserable. I'm begging you, please don't make me play this. Like, what if I get to a point and I cannot beat it? So I can't finish it because I don't have the skill or I don't know what to
Yeah.
do. And we didn't discuss that. Like, what do we do if we really can't actually beat a game because it's too difficult? I hope that at some point the strategy starts to be more important than necessarily skill. I don't know. But that worries me because that will ruin an experience for me. And if for some reason I couldn't finish the game because it's too difficult, or even if I can finish it, but it's so hard, it it will ruin, like put a bitter taste in my mouth. So I am very worried about that, if I'm being honest. In any older vintage game we play, that's gonna be a concern because I mean we all know the older games, some of them are ruthless, right? Like
Yeah.
you buy these on the weekend, that's what you're doing that weekend. Like you don't, and I already looked, this game doesn't have cheat codes. So you're
Yeah.
screwed. Like, yeah, it's gotta be all skill. So those are the things I don't like. How about you?
Yeah, the difficulty gives me trepidation. The queen bee was pretty annoying at first until I kind of lucked out with my strategy. I do worry about a skill ceiling at some point. You and I are both playing through methods where we don't have save states, right? Like if we had on a computer, you could, save the game whenever you want to and just refresh to that same one. You could make these really annoying boss fights trivial, but we're not playing that way, and I think that's for the best. We experience the actual game as it was meant. Um, I'm worried about that, but I think we might be okay. Queen Bee was rough. I'm hoping that since there's more variability moving forward, you can kind of get that sweet spot evolution that's going to make some of the bosses easier. Like there's probably an intended evolution to be at when you fight a certain boss to kind of be like the key to unlock success. Um, I started off loving the music. Like the second level when you're in like an underground cave, that song was a straight up banger. It was like
Yeah,
straight out of Marble
some of them, yeah,
Madness.
aren't bad, but then there's
Yeah.
some that
But then there's some throwaway levels like you're talking about, and those are the levels you grind on. That's like it's literally like a 5 second loop of just like bleeps and bloops, and it sucks so bad. Like it's
yeah.
pissing me off. That's disappointing. I think my biggest concern about the game is like how far will it go with this variety? And will my evolution choices really make a difference? Or have after the first two worlds, I've seen all the game has to offer, and it's really just kind of progressing along with what it has. We see that with a lot of games sometimes. Where like you play the first 10%, now it's just more of that first 10% over and over again. Which if you enjoy it is good, and I enjoy this well enough, but it's going to be annoying if like the next 8 hours of this game is just the first 10% over and over again. You already see it a bit when you go into World 1 and World 2 and World 3. It knocks you back down to like an amorphous amphibian creature, and you're starting from kind of nothing, which is a bit weird. I kind of would have liked to start from a dragon and go from like dragon to dinosaur, but instead you're like back to like a blob of a guy, and you got to build up from the beginning.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I worry if we've already seen the limits of their ingenuity in the game design, and then the game's going to be hoping the gameplay itself is fun enough to carry the remaining 80% of the game.
Yeah, and not that you would know this without me telling you, but the fact that there's that secret,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I know there are other secrets. I don't know what they are, but they had like a list of like secrets in the game,
yeah.
and I know there's many of them.
I I will
That gives
say,
me hope. If your ingenuity is at the limit, you don't add secrets, right?
yeah.
So, uh,
But I'll say that like if I take the time to evolve into a baby Triceratops and I go see that daddy Triceratops and he doesn't do anything about it, I'm gonna be pissed. It's gonna burn out my desire to explore the
Can you
game.
even turn into a Triceratops?
Yeah, you get like there's a three horn option, and there's like a shielded head option, and there's like basically
Oh.
Triceratops. You can
But see,
see
it
them.
doesn't make sense though, dude. You're not its parent, or you're not its child, so it's not gonna respond to you. I'll tell you right now that's not gonna happen.
I might Google it just so I don't get burnt out on it. But like that's what I want to see. Like when it's like the Chekhov's gun thing. If you're gonna show a gun, you better shoot that gun. And in my mind, that Triceratops being like, I'm looking for another Triceratops is like, all right, I know I can turn into a
No, no,
Triceratops.
see, what I think is gonna happen, totally could be wrong,
Yeah,
is maybe the final boss somewhere we're gonna see the baby Triceratops and we're gonna have to save it.
maybe. And that's fine enough. At
I
the
mean,
very
it's not like special, but I think that's
no,
what's gonna happen.
but at the very least, I want it to be rewarded that I turned into a Triceratops. Even if he's not like, you're my son, yay. Even if he's just like, okay, no, you're not my son, but you look like him or something like that's all I need. That's all I need to be like, they
That's so
thought
stupid.
no, no,
Why?
no, 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 because it's a litmus test for how much they thought about like what you can do and what the game is showing you. And if the game is showing me a Triceratops and it's looking for a small Triceratops, although it's his son, and I show up as a small Triceratops, I want that to be recognized in some capacity. I mean that's why games like Fallout are so revered because there is like a bit of like, yeah, you can kind of do your own thing. Think about a clever way to solve this. And I'm not solving the puzzle of the game, but like that it respects my ingenuity as much as I'm respecting its ingenuity. It's a high bar to set, but that it like takes a lot of work to do that if you're playing the game. And if I do all that work and it's not rewarded, it's like, okay, I see the limits of what they're expecting of me, and that puts a limit on what I have to expect of the game. So it's not going to kill the game. It's just like I don't know. Like there's the bar for where this game is going to go is like way out there. I don't know. It's super high or it's like right exactly where I'm at right now. And my concern is that it's exactly where I'm at right now, and I'm not going to get much more beyond a couple new like moves for my dinosaur. But my hope is that it's thinking that next, third or fourth level ahead, which the idea that they have these Easter eggs is promising. And maybe they are thinking that high ahead, but I think I might just be expecting too much for a 16-bit game.
I mean, I just think your idea is stupid. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so you go there and you're a mini Triceratops. What, you want to like trick him into thinking you're his son, and then what?
No, he says,
And
"Oh,
you
you're here.
kill him?
Here's the
Like
green." No,
you crap like
even if he says, "No, no, no, you're not my son," that's good. That's fine because they knew that a person playing the game could understand the evolution process and go through this and do that thing. Like it just shows that they thought about this and how somebody's going to play a game enough to make that situation happen.
it just I would be mind blown if that was in there.
That's
I
what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking about. It'd be a mind-blowing addition to the game,
but
which
not a useful one.
no, it
Give
doesn't have to.
me
No, that's not the point. I'm not talking about like a utility thing. I don't want to get infinite lives for that or like unlimited points. I just want it to be that shows how much they thought about the game, how where the game could go. It shows the creativity that is enabled in the game and that they're willing to enable you to do something to that degree. It doesn't have to be rewarded that much. It just has to show that they actually thought about it that level rather than the superficial level of like, oh, you'd be a Triceratops too.
I, I mean, whatever. I don't agree with it. I'm gonna look up. I don't know what a Triceratops looks like.
It's got three horns.
That
How
doesn't
do
mean
you not know what dinosaurs look like?
doesn't mean.
That's like the quintessential dinosaur.
Okay, I mean I've seen it. I just don't know what they. I don't know these things, dude.
Triceratops, three horns.
Okay, so maybe this is what I'm. Well, the thing I am currently, I looked like a turtle, except a dinosaur, of course.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I I'm not concerned with the same concerns you have. I think there's still a lot left in store. Now, in general, I think it's going to be the same gameplay and like mechanic, but I honestly have no idea where this is going to go. Like after dinosaurs, I'm assuming at some point you become a human, or will you just get to an ape? Are you going to turn to something in between? Like, what's the next step? Dinosaurs were wiped off the planet, right? By a meteor. Then what? Like, what do you think is going to happen next? I'm curious. I mean, I certainly don't know. I'm just curious. What do you think?
Am I back? My browser crashed.
Oh, yeah, you're back. I didn't even know
Okay.
you were gone.
My computer
Oh,
blanked out on me, but I think I'm still recording and stuff. Okay, I'm good. I think of course they're gonna show a meteor hit the Earth, and you're gonna evolve into the next level. Um,
yeah, but what is that?
I mean, I can look ahead and see what it
No,
is,
no,
but
no, no. I want your like. This is why ultimately we're getting to it.
no, it's
I am terrified of the difficulty, but I I want to keep playing. At first, after I got to the Queen Bee, I was like, dude, I'm gonna say no. Just the difficulty's too much. I'm intrigued, but it's too much. But then after finally beating it, and then I haven't played the game for maybe 6 to 7 days, and it's been kind of eating at me, and us talking about it, it's killing me. I'm like, what is next? I have to know. So that's why I want to play the game. And that I think is a mark of a fantastic game. Whereas Silent Hill
yeah.
2, I was like, please, I don't know what's going to happen and I don't care. I don't want to find out. This, I'm like dying. I'm on this trip to Vegas and I wish I were home. So tomorrow I could play E.V.O. a Search for Eden. That is what I call a game, baby. Now it might let me down, I don't know. But when you die of a dinosaur, anything else seemingly is going to be like a, you're going backwards. Like a
You're going
di-
back. You're going back. You're probably going back to the water, and I think that you're going to see mammals. Like that's what came next was mammals. Woolly mammoth, saber-toothed tiger. Like there's all sorts of stuff we can get.
but then
Uh,
they died too.
yeah, but they died. They coincided with other mammals, monkeys. Man,
Yeah.
my hope is like, what if it goes beyond, right? Like you're searching for Eden. Does it stop at man? Do you become like a four-legged man? Do you become a man who can fly? Do you become an alien? Like that's going to be really cool. I don't think they're going to go that far,
No,
but
I don't I don't think so
that
either.
would be so awesome if like the last level is like you're like like in Res, you're like a levitating ball of energy. Like that would be so cool.
I nah. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think that.
Yeah, I doubt it, but it would just be cool. I mean, I guess the last question then, Adam, is are you gonna keep playing Evo?
I mean, again, like I said, when I played that Queen Bee, I had decided I was like, I think I'm gonna vote no. But since I've played it, it's it's eating at me, and I really want to know what happens. And if it weren't for the difficulty, I'm all in. I love everything else about it. So I think I gotta try it. So my vote is yes. How about you?
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes. It's doing so many cool things. It's a low bar of investment. Like you, when I finished the second two levels, I was like pissed at myself. I was like, I want to play more Evo. I want to know what happens next. I want to do dinosaurs. I want to see who comes after dinosaurs. I want to see where this goes. I have trepidation about the difficulty, but we'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Maybe the next episode we're like, neither one of us finished it. We watched the rest of it on YouTube. God, that sucked. But like right now, I have high hopes. I'm excited. What it's done in the first 2 hours has been great. So I can't wait to see more. It's fun to play. It surprises me that it's as enjoyable and in some ways modern compared to all the other 16-bit games. It's like it's a very freaking good Super Nintendo game, and I'm upset that I haven't heard more about it up until this point, which is like I followed video games so closely for so long. Why aren't people talking about it? Maybe it's because I didn't make enough. I don't know. It's so awesome. At least if I would be talking to somebody years from now and they're talking about Super Nintendo games, like, you got to play Evo. At the very least, you got to play the first 2 hours because that's super cool. And then maybe the rest after that it sucks, but like, I don't know, man. This feels like a classic in the waiting.
I would be curious. I mean, I don't know technically what the definition of a hidden gem is. I think before you claim that, you got to finish the game and decide, right? But it's laid the foundation to potentially be a hidden gem, right?
Yeah. You know what it is? You played Soul Blazer, told me Soul Blazer was good. I played Soul Blazer, never heard about it. I freaking loved it. This is like that, where it's like, I don't know why, because like there's things that are super like there's things that are very much of its era, but there's also things that are like, man, they just don't make them like that anymore, like in a good way. And this has a lot of that charm to it. So I think we're, in hidden gem territory. It's I'm liking playing this more than I liked playing Zelda Link to the Past. I'll say that.
Oh well, that's not great if that was going to be one of the games we play. Oh, wait, no, no, we were gonna play Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, Link Between Worlds. Yeah, yeah.
Link to the Pat. Wait, the really?
The super. Yeah, because it was just like it was fine, but that's a perfect example. Zelda games, you after the first hour or two, you've seen the whole game, and it's just like iterating on that. Like there's
Yeah,
new puzzles and stuff, but like that's the game. Take it or leave it. What you see is what you get. And you get new weapons and stuff, but it really doesn't fundamentally change. This game has fundamentally changed more times in the first 2 hours than Zelda does throughout the entire 20-hour campaign. And I love it. It's awesome.
yeah. That's a good point. I mean, I didn't really think about that, but yeah, you're right. It has. I think they could remake not this exact game, but the concept in a modern game, and I think it would be a freaking hit. I
Well, they
really.
did. It's called Cubivore, and nobody played it except for me.
Oh, but that was a GameCube. I'm talking about like PS5 stuff.
Oh, I'd love it. So there's games like it, kind of, like a Shark Evolution game, but that kind of stops at just sharks. But I think people have tried this, but nobody's really taken it seriously like this game does. But man, that's I want to play Cubivore after this because Cubivore had a lot of the same stuff going on.
If
The
it does, then
stories,
I think I'm gonna like it because I love this concept.
yeah, the story's not as big. The story's not big about like the evolution of all animals, but it is similar stuff in the vein of like, all right, every time you mate and you give birth to something, you can choose a new flap. And so it's like at first you're just like three flaps that can walk. And then you get like a flap with like an extra appendage that doesn't do anything. And then it's like, I'll get a flap here and a flap here. Now I can fly and like stuff like that. This game's doing the same kind of things and I want to play Cubivore again, but that's like a $500 game now. Can't believe I used to own that. Mm.
Yeah. And I don't know what to think, but the fact that we've now pretty much talked about this for three whole segments, that in itself, I guess, maybe should indicate we played 2 hours. Like it must be good. We're enjoying talking about it
Yeah.
where we filled that, and I don't feel like it's been filler either. Like we've actually talked about, I think, decent stuff about the game. So all of this to remember, Alex, we gotta with a game like this, I think you really gotta remember the big picture. Is Gaia wearing the bra? That's what we gotta find out. That's it.
That's what's pulling me through, baby.
That's the mystery. That's the whole reason I'm still here. Like, I don't know. I'm dying to find out. I am dying to find out, and there's only one way to do it. We gotta play. But you, the listener, evolve into subscribers of Gaming is in Session, the podcast, by looking for us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of the other podcast platforms, whichever is your favorite. We would love to hear from you. We have our email contact at playpsvr.com. We also have our YouTube channel, Gaming is in Session. You can see our faces. You can write a comment. You'll get a fan shout out. Good stuff right there. We want to thank you for listening to this long episode of E.V.O, A Search for Eden. And if you don't like it,
Tell it to the judges.